right. Welcome, everybody. So, my name is Gabriel Riccio. You may know me as the guy who transcribes the King Crimson sheet music books, or from my project, the Gabriel Construct. And this is the 7th video where I interview artists I've collaborated with about their new releases. So I am here today with Empyrean Sanctum, an Illinois progressive metal band who just released their second album, Detachment From Reality. We just heard the opening song from that album, Heart of Gold, and what a journey that is. I mean, I just love the arc it takes you through so many different emotions. Like, the large-scale form of it is awesome. So Justin Kellerman here is the guitarist, songwriter, and arranger behind the project, and Albert Rybka is the vocalist. So welcome, guys, and congrats on the release.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's, I like to kind of review our history together at the beginning of these things. So I moved to Chicago in 2013, and I had just released my own debut album, and I was looking to meet musicians, and you two were some of the first that I met. So my wife and frequent collaborator, violinist Sophia Udine, was in medical school at the University of Chicago, and Al was working at the bookstore there, and she asked him if the store would stock my record, and soon discovered that he was a metal vocalist. And so I came in to meet him, and he asked me to come to this house party way down in the south suburbs. So I hopped on several buses for several hours and eventually landed at this white house. And Justin was at that party as well, and we quickly bonded over doing Limp Bizkit impersonations. And the three of us have been friends ever since, and even done a few gigs together, and it turns out that both of these guys are spectacular musicians. So, yeah, does that sound about right? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, it's a pretty accurate story, I would say. Yeah. But yeah, it's been awesome knowing you all these years, Gabe. You're a tremendous musician in your own right, and you've written some just wild stuff, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But we're here to talk about you guys. So Detachment From Reality. This record has been very long in the making. It was in progress when I met you guys back then, which was 2013, and it's undergone many forms of delays, lineup changes, technique reevaluations, and more. So, I almost see this as kind of a reboot for you, as it's coming out over a decade after the debut. It's got vastly increased production values, virtuosity, the whole thing. I think the wait really paid off. So can you guys talk a bit about the long road to making this record a reality and some of the obstacles you encountered?
Ooh. Yeah, geez, where to begin? That was quite a long process. A lot of learning along the way too, I would say the big thing was a lot of this, there's a chunk of this material that was actually written before the recording of the first album. And I was kind of just sitting on some ideas, and a lot of the material was kind of written just sitting with a guitar, believe it or not. At least the bare bones of it. And yeah, as far as obstacles go, I mean, life, for one, that played a large role. Life decisions, life circumstances. Also, different people not having the same drive and ambition, and me sort of, I don't know, like projecting that onto them, like, oh, you can be like have that drive that I do, but it's like, wait, not everybody is like you, not everyone has that in them. So yeah, I mean, that was pretty much like I would say the main obstacles was just like life stuff, financial stuff, and the people you surround yourself with, and just not pushing it to that next step. And then as things would kind of start picking up progress, I would get some opportunity to play with someone else or someone else's project, and I would think, oh, this could be good for me or something, and then it really ends up just being a distraction and isn't what I truly want to be doing anyways, and that causes delay. And then, of course, when the ball finally gets rolling, you're dealing with other people's schedules, and you have to be considerate of other people's schedules, and if they're in other countries and stuff, and their availability and who they're working with, blah blah blah. So all that in like combination led to a very long time till this release, but here we are.
Then it really paid off because you managed to get some pretty incredible people on the final product, right?
It's honestly, it's
no.
it's I mean he is fucking incredible. but man, it's seriously a dream come true. Like it's like the little like high school kid me that was like, oh, I love this band, and that, like, holy fuck, like now, they're involved, and it's came out great, and I'm 100% happy with, I think the wait was honestly like necessary. I don't think that the album would have turned out the way it did had everything not gone the way it went, and the people that were involved, and like just the time that I needed to understand, like get better with like mixing and just working a DAW and all the crazy plugins and learning about layering and all that stuff. And there's just a lot that I feel had the album come out earlier, I don't think it would have turned out the way it did now.
Right. So tell us, who do you have on here on this final product? Who played on it? Who mixed it?
Okay, so we have on drums Hannes Grossmann, and he's played with numerous projects that are just killer. Of course, Necrophagist, Obscura. Lauded Science is one that really sold me. Like that was one of the things for me. Like I was like, I really want to have Hannes play drums, because I'm already kind of influenced by his playing, and like when I think in my mind of drummers that like what would this person do, like over the what would be the drum part that would be played over this, he is one of the people that would come to mind. So like I said, that whole kind of dream come true thing. And then on bass we have Alex Weber. He's currently in Revocation, and he did play in Obscura for a bit, but he has his own band, Exist, and I think he still plays with Malignancy. And he also has like a solo project, Svengali, which is really cool too. He's just a monster player. He tracked the album in 1 week. Like he sent some parts and was like on he sent tabs, like bass tabs on Guitar Pro, and was just like, check this over, make sure it's okay, I was like, yeah, and he's like, I'll do some, I might do some improvisation and stuff here and there. And I think he sent me like 4 tabs, and after that, I was, I just was like, yep, okay. No real like pushback or anything like that. And then next thing you know, I'm getting emails. Here's one song, here's another. I'm just like, oh, holy shit. And it was just like boom, 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 quick. Hannes was extremely quick too. It took him a little bit longer because of the fact that he had to go fly out and play with Triptykon. I don't know if he had to fly out. I don't know what he does, but he had to play some shows with Triptykon over like the weekend or something. So he would like track my album during the week and then go out and play some festival with Triptykon and then come back and then track my album during the next week. And yeah, it was like 2 weeks and it was boom, boom, done, you know?
That's awesome.
So, yeah. Of course, we had the wonderful Albert Rybka here on vocals, who just really, I mean, dude, it's so fun working with Al because we just like feed off of each other and like it's a blast. I can't like say enough about how great the process is of like working with Al, because it's just, you know, friendship helps too, so that makes it extra fun. And then as far as some guests go, we have Per Nilsson doing a guest solo on the song Age of Innocence. I play a solo on a kind of slower part that's more like chill and atmospheric, and then it gets heavy, and then he pops in and pretty much is like, hey kid, this is how it's done, you know, and just, you know, rips a crazy ass solo. It's short, but it's sweet, and it's, yeah, oh man, you want to get humbled, that's how you do it. But that was like a dream, because I mean, Per's one of my favorite guitar players, and I love Scar Symmetry, and I love Meshuggah, and like, so that was really cool. Just incredible experience to have someone like that contribute to your art. And then you, sir, Gabriel, wherever you are, your screen is, oh, there he is. You also were on what I would say is probably the most emotional track on the album. At least most personal track. That's for damn sure. It's a deep one, but you are doing some really cool, you know, backup, like kind of scream. I don't even know what to call it. But
manly stuff that I can't do.
Oh man.
But yeah, it was so cool, and that all kind of came to be because we were I was spending the night over at your place, and we were editing the vocals that Al performed, and in that process, it was like, you should throw in some vocals here on this one. And yeah, we just kind of, you were like, fuck, I'm not even warmed up or prepared, and you just kind of did it, and it came out really cool. So
yeah, I remember it being a
pro,
real struggle.
I was saying it's because you're a pro.
Well, thank you. It was definitely a technique that I did not have down at the time and can do much better now, but luckily it's real low in the mix, so, you know, we live and learn. But yeah, so, and then it was mixed by David Castillo, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to say right now, like, that in itself, having David Castillo mix the album, to me, made the album. Like, it's just what he managed to do with all those layers, and to like it sounds really modern and huge, but like I feel like it still kind of has this really good like organic kind of quality to it and character where it's not too like I don't know like pop music like smushed kind of sounding. Um, but yeah, I mean I working with him was awesome. The communication was really good with him. And the thing is too, with like everybody that I work with, I don't try to like intrude on their thing. Like, it's like you put the ego aside because it's like I'm having you mix the record. I'm not going to sit here and like tell you like, oh, do this and do that and do that. That's no. Why did I? So and that goes with everything. Like I trust the person that is doing it, and I'm coming to them because they have something to offer that's really special. And I mean, if you consider all the albums that David has mixed, I mean, they're just phenomenal sounding albums. The sonic like landscape that he's able to create, and there were certain things that he did on this album, like some little liberties that he took with like I don't know the way he'd fade in an intro or like a part or something like that in certain ways, or kind of he made a couple little choices that were not my doing. They were just him as from his perspective, and I feel like it gave everything more life and like brought out more of what the songs were supposed to be. So it was just a really cool experience. And then he had Thomas Pleck Johansson master it. He felt that he was the right person, and it sure as hell when I heard I heard the mixes and I was like, oh my god. And then when I heard the masters, I was like, how can this even sound better? And it does. Like, wow, holy shit. So yeah, it just lots of just phenomenal people that are phenomenal at what they do, just all involved in this to just really bring it to life,
Mm-hmm.
Actually, if I could interject for just a moment, speaking about Castillo, he actually wasn't the original choice. I won't name names, but Justin had another guy in mind. Kind of going back to the whole obstacles discussion earlier. Another thing that held things up was there was somebody else that was in mind, and he was another fairly big name in the progressive and power metal scene who had an opportunity to mix and master the album himself, and I kind of just blew Justin off, and kind of left a sour taste in our mouths. And in hindsight, I think Justin agrees that I think the album turned out better as a result of working with Castillo as opposed to who the original choice was. So goes to show that things worked out the way they did for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, it seems like the final product probably captures your vision for this pretty well. So can you talk a little bit about, what that vision was for this record? What you were trying to capture with it?
So I guess I can start with like the actual concept of the record, because the album isn't necessarily it's not necessarily a straightforward concept album. It's more like conceptual in a theme. Although the order of the songs and stuff was put in order, or in that order for that specific reason. Because it does kind of play out the sort of the order that these emotions were kind of happening in the ballpark. But really what the concept is dealing with is human characteristics and human traits that are hard to look at and hard to, kind of like admit, like, yeah, people can be that way. And this sort of inner struggle with like finding yourself, finding the person you want to be, finding your purpose, dealing with really negative emotions, going all the way to like suicide and stuff like that. And just like every song is like a different snapshot of like a different feeling and being in a different place mentally. And it kind of takes you through this this different course. So like if I just like go through like the songs in order, we have Heart of Gold that starts off the album, which is the only song that the lyrics were actually, the contribution would have been, they were written by Zach Libby, who used to be in the band. And so he wrote those lyrics, and we felt that it fit with the rest of the theme of the album, because the topic is about just selfish power and greed, that comes from that humans are capable of, and how selfish they can be. And that kind of sets the tone for the album, especially because the song is so like, it goes all over the place and just takes you all these places, so it's sort of setting the tone. And then you move to Descent, which is from that point on, all the lyrics were written by me, and they were just my emotions that I was battling and dealing with. And it kind of is this like up and down roller coaster, and that takes you through. So you have Descent is like these depression and just emptiness and stuff. And then you move to Transparency, which is kind of about like looking at life and thinking, I could see something better for my life. I just doing this 9-to-5 shit and just, working for the man and all that, like, and just kind of viewing like the world and just thinking like there's got to be like just following the straight path doesn't seem right for me. And then we continue on forward into Detachment From Reality, and this is the title track, and this is kind of the representation or the theme of the album, in the sense that it's really just this being so in yourself and like so broken and like lost, I guess you could say, in just all these different ways, and trying to kind of like battle that and fight through it, and just feeling like you're here but you're not here. It's like, well, like you basically don't even want to exist, but you're existing. And it's really like tough stuff that was happening internally, and that's kind of what that represents, and that's what the album cover is kind of supposed to represent, is like, here's like this person, right? And this world, it's like they're in the world, but this is not the world. And it's just, and I kind of like the sci-fi kind of, post-apocalyptic stuff. I just feel like it's a good representation, and we're like machines, like in the, it's kind of cool. And so then it moves over to Age of Innocence, and this is where like there's kind of this like pondering of, okay, feeling low, feeling horrible, just, and you look at Age of Innocence, and it's this kind of, well, how can this be fixed? Maybe it's the people, and it's like looking at like, okay, well, if we return to this Age of Innocence of like when we were children, when we didn't have like the same type of problems and all that, and just it's kind of more like youthful playfulness and this we didn't judge each other so much and all that. And it's just kind of this like cry for like, well, maybe if we revert back to this way of thinking, it will improve our quality of life. And it could be like as a whole, as everybody, or it could have just been like, maybe if I do that, you know? And that's what that song sort of covers. And then you move to a genuine empathy, which kind of touches deeper into that, but it's more of like this collective, like kind of peace, like hippie shit, you know, like if we love each other and care for each other, like, hey, like we're all one. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, like, and I preach that a lot anyways. And so like that was one of the earlier songs that was actually written, but like, you know, it's just, like I said, it's this kind of this like moving through these emotions. And like I said, these ups and downs. And so it's like, oh, okay, we're kind of getting somewhere. And then boom, lifeless death hits you. And lifeless death is like the lowest, darkest low. And so what that song is about, you know, is basically just losing it completely. That song is a representation of the last time in my life I ever had a suicidal, like, thoughts of suicide. It was the last time I ever experienced that in my life. I can specifically remember it because I was in the process of writing that song and maybe had like the first few sections of that song composed. And I remember I was already feeling kind of off that day. I remember driving to my apartment in Chicago at the time to go work on the music, and I remember like randomly like tearing up, and I'm like, what the fuck, whatever. And then I went to go start writing the song and working on the song, and then I don't know, a couple hours in, my thoughts started going to weird places, and I just felt this sadness that I couldn't explain, and just body went cold, and I shriveled into a ball and like crawled into my bed and just passed out. And I know I don't want to get like too personal and too deep into it, but I know now, like looking back, what all that was, but like at the time I didn't, you know. And so that's kind of what that song represents, and that's why it was kind of written in the way more of like almost like a classical piece with like movements, as opposed to I didn't want to do something that was like quite conventional with like verse, chorus, bridge, you know, like but yeah, so that's like the lowest point. And so that song is kind of like, the lyrics are like this battle, like fighting that voice in your head, like, no, I won't give in to you, like, you know, so it's this like saying like, oh, like, yeah, just do it, just fucking end your life, you know, like it's all the pain goes away, it's gone. And it's like, no, like life is good, like you need to keep going, like don't do that, you're gonna hurt other people doing that. And that's when we move into refinement, which that song is about finding power within yourself, like self-love, and you know, seeing that like you have something to offer, and you have strength and internally, and you know, you can do something with your life, and you can make a difference, and all that good stuff, you know, all those positive, uplifting things that, you know, help you like go about your day. So that song is really just about power within and self-love. And I think that's why that song is like so like heavy and just intense and powerful, because it's supposed to just represent this like pure power. And then the album ends on this grandiose note with elation, and Elation is kind of an interesting one because it is about happiness, and so you think like the album is ending on this happy note, but in reality, what it really is, the song is actually a little passive aggressive and kind of about faking happy. So it is happy in the sense that like it goes all over the place and I'm getting to be myself musically, and there's like even little Latin flavors in there and stuff, and like it's letting everything out, but at the same time it's like I wasn't necessarily feeling that way internally. So it's like fake it till you make it. But you know, the whole idea behind that is like, look, like it's gonna be hard, but like if you fake it or whatever and fake your way through, like eventually you will reach your goals and learn that that happiness is from within. But you know, it if you're not training yourself to like be there in the first place and you're always like, oh, down in the dumps, you have no chance. So like elation is like, it's fake happy, but it's happy. It's kind of goofy, but and that's how the album kind of ends, and you have this kind of like Lydian ending of the do 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 do. It's very like thematic, and it's kind of like leaving you like to wonder like, oh, what's next? And that's sort of the point. So yeah, it all in all, like, so that's like from the lyrical standpoint, but from like a musical standpoint, I was really trying to paint a cinematic picture, and that's kind of where all that like layering and stuff comes in, like the movie soundtrack stuff. So I wanted just something that was like kind of big and grandiose and really emotional and really conveyed the emotions that were trying to be expressed, not only like lyrically but like musically.
Okay. So Al, did you write the vocal arrangements?
No, sir. I would say 99% of that was Mr. Kellerman there. Um, he had actually mapped out how he wanted me to sing everything. He had recorded some scratch vocals of himself to give me an idea as to the vocal melodies that he was looking for. And from there, I just went over to his place to record. And there were a few occasions maybe where I might have had a suggestion and said, hey, what if we change this line, and do it this way? And I'm like, yeah, let's go for it. So there was those moments. So he always gave me an opportunity to, to throw in my own suggestions. But I would say, yeah, the vast majority of it is all this guy.
Okay. So what was it like for you interpreting all of the heavy themes that Justin just described and bringing all that to life?
Good question. I think it was such a wonderful experience for me, to be honest. Up until this point, if anyone knows any of my work, they kind of know me as that guy who can hit ball squeezing high notes. And so, a lot of the lyrical terrain that gets covered with a voice like that, it's cool stuff. I really enjoy it. Of course, I wouldn't do it otherwise, but you know, there's definitely more of an emotional depth to what's going on with this music. And, you know, knowing that it was so personal and that it was coming from somebody who I consider to be the best friend I have on this planet, like it made it that much more of more of an intense journey. And not to mention, it gave me an opportunity to sing in ways that people didn't really get to hear from me before. You know, like I said, everybody gets to hear me go just like all the time. And, you know, yeah, great, I can do that. But I can do other stuff too. Problem is, all the other bands that I'm in always want the ball squeezing vocals. And it was nice to have an opportunity to show some different facets of my voice. You know, and that was Justin told me himself. He said, you know, I want people to hear more of what you can do. Like he's like, yeah, you'll get some moments to do some high stuff. I'm like, cool, you know, that'll be fun. But I love that it's more sprinkled in as opposed to like just pummeling you with it, you know? Um, so yeah, like I love that I was able to sing in actually what's more of a natural range for me. I don't do that too often because, you know, um, I don't want to say it's not challenging enough, but it's, I feel like, I guess for a long time I viewed it as kind of limiting. And Justin kind of showed me that there's, there, there are more doors to open with it than I realized. Um, and, uh, and it was really cool to do a lot of the softer parts too. I love having those sort of just those lighter, softer moments too. And some of the experimentation with harmonies was a lot of fun to work with. Um, and and yeah, you know, again, I wouldn't have had this sort of opportunity if I had tried putting an album together on my own or working with anybody else. So I have Justin to thank for the opportunity and the experience. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. Like, I've heard many records that you sang on, and I think this one is really the best all-around showcase of what you can do. And you sound amazing on it. So, um,
Thanks. I appreciate it.
so you guys made two music videos for this, which was especially interesting to me because I know Al hates metal music videos. Um, so can you talk a little bit about that and how that went down?
Well, for the
Um,
record, I hate metal music videos. I don't hate being in them because I will do anything for attention. Sorry. Go ahead, Justin.
um, yeah, so the videos. We worked with Alex Zarek, he's a super cool guy, super fun. He gets it, um, and believe it or not, those music videos were shot in my basement.
So you got Hannes to come to your basement?
No, so okay, so this is the thing. Um, uh, Hannes didn't end up doing he wasn't in the video, and neither was Alex. Alex was originally supposed to be in the video, but he had just gotten the gig for Revocation and had all this shit like piling up on him, and he was just like, dude, if I do it, like I'm gonna delay your album, and I don't want to do that, because it's gonna be I won't be free for a while. I was like, okay, so I ended up playing bass in the video, but as far as the drums go, a really awesome drummer who happens to live very close by, his name is Mike Mousel. We played together in Divinity Compromised for a period of time, and he's a monster drummer. I mean, he learned Hannes's drum parts like that and did it for the video. So yeah, he came by and we did that, and yeah, everything was kind of shot separately. That way it could like look more like kind of thing. And like I said, the experience was just, it was great. It was a lot of fun. I've worked with Alex in the past when I was involved in another band, and that was, and I was in two music videos that he shot. So I already was kind of understood working with him, but I mean, since that time, he's just improved so much at his craft and gotten so much better and kind of like honed in on his own style and stuff. And it was really easy to kind of just like talk about the vision, and like for the videos, I didn't want like too much craziness. I just wanted kind of more of like a vibe, and to kind of fit the vibe of like Heart of Gold, I wanted kind of a little more like, I wanted colors from the album cover, but I also wanted like a little more red in there, because I think of red as like kind of dark and bad and like so it kind of gave that feeling of this like it's kind of almost evil, but not, because the song's about, you know, just this selfish and greed, which you could say is that inherently is can be evil depending on how far that goes. And then Descent being about depression, that's why there was so much more like green in there, because I feel like the green is kind of like sick, sad, like kind of feeling. And so that was kind of the use of that. But yeah, so it was a great process.
Okay.
Yeah, Alex was a lot of fun to work with. He made things super smooth, and he had a good sense of humor, but he just got right down to business too, and he got all my good sides too, so that's important.
Oh man. So, speaking of Divinity Compromise, you two have been involved with a whole bunch of other projects. So can you each talk about just a few of those that feel really relevant for you right now?
Would you like to begin, Justin?
Yeah. As far as projects that I've been involved in, the only thing that I really consider like relevant is, for the most part, is in Empyrean Sanctum, because that's like my baby and it's like my thing and my main focus. Projects that I was involved in the past, Divinity Compromise, I didn't write any music with Divinity Compromise. I did write some stuff that was going to possibly be used, but the band kind of just fizzled around COVID, and so nothing really ever came of it. But that was a cool experience, because those guys are just really crazy players and cool dudes. And I joined the Monarch after that, like around that time, and that's a whole nother story, and I'm not really gonna go into it for legal purposes, but yeah, and I was briefly in the band Agent Steel, and I won't go into that either, but and there is another project that's kind of in the works there's just been a lot of focus on the Empyrean Sanctum album because it just came out, so it's kind of had my attention pulled away. But there is another project that Albert and I are involved in with the Agent Steel guys that it will see the light of day at some point, and it will be kind of a little more on the traditional metal side and not all doctored up like my stuff. But that's pretty much it. It's pretty much going to be that project, and Empyrean Sanctum is really going to be the main focus, because I've been working for a really long time towards this goal, and now that everything is sort of established, that's going to be the primary focus, and I already have new music for Empyrean Sanctum that's in the works. It's in the process, and we're going to just try to push the envelope even more so than before.
Nice. And as for me, I'm just a big old band floozy. Yeah, basically, my main gig these days is with a US power metal band called Fierce Atmospheres. I've been working with them for a little over 2 years now, and I've been writing lyrics for songs for a new album with them. We've got just about enough songs for a new album, and the plan is to go into the studio and record those in the latter half of this year so we can have a new release sometime next year. Um, Aside from that, I just started gigging out with a band called the Core Manifold, which is a bunch of just really cool musicians scattered about the Chicagoland area. Um, I'd say it's like slightly progressive tinged melodic, heavy metal, if you will. We put out our debut album early last year, and yeah, we just started playing out live. Did our first show just a few weeks ago. Two of the guys on the album are no longer a part of the band, so the live lineup actually consists of a couple of my old bandmates from my first power metal band, Bav Morta. So it's been really fun jamming with those guys again. And we're already working on some new material so we can eventually make album number 2. And let's see, then there's my Salt Lake City band, Category 5, who, by the way, has a new album coming out next month on Metallic Blue Records in the US and High Roller Records overseas in Europe. So that was a band that I was in back in between like '08 and 2011. Did an album with them that didn't actually get a proper release until about a year and a half ago. If anyone's interested, it's called Resurrect the Insurgents. Sounds good. This new one, though, it's called Awaken a New Age of Chaos. And there are a couple of songs up on YouTube right now that you can check out. We've got 3 songs up, so feel free to check them out. It's heavy. It's definitely heavy. Aside from that, there's the project that Justin had mentioned, and we'll get to work on that some more, hopefully very soon. I'm gonna have to start poking that guy and getting some stuff going. But we have a handful of songs ready to go already, and it's sounding pretty interesting. And then I recently joined a Queensryche tribute band. I've done a couple of shows with them too, so keeping that high range going. That's pretty much it for now until somebody else suckers me into something.
You're not staying busy at all.
No, keeping a full-time corporate schlub job on top of like 6 various music projects. Who needs sleep?
Well, guys, thank you so much for everything tonight. And to finish this off, I'd like to give a listen to Lifeless Death, which is the really intense song Justin was talking about earlier. So this is, I believe, the 1 8-string song on the album, right?
Yes. Some of it was tracked on the 7-string because I tried to track as much that I could on it, but there's definitely a lot of sections that had to be done on the 8-string. Yeah, it's the only song on the album that used the 8-string. So we kind of get a little sugar.
Yeah. I mean, it's got that Meshuggah flavor for sure, but it's also got, I think, a pretty strong Devin Townsend flavor. Hence the vocal I added to it, and I think when you put all the ingredients of it together, it has a pretty unique sound.
I appreciate that. Unique is what I strive for. I don't want to just sound like Dream Theater or something. Like. I love Dream Theater. I worship that stuff, but I want to have my own kind of thing. I don't want to be limited to this sound or that sound. I'm gonna try different things and see how it comes out, you know.
Well, I'm excited to hear what you guys say. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
those views do not express the views of Albert Rybka. I will join any Dream Theater clone, so just putting it out there.
Hey, he can do it too. He can.
I'll
Shit out of some Dream.
love that stuff.
Oh, I know it. Well, I'm excited to hear where you guys cook up next. So thank you for your time tonight, and thank you to everyone who came out and watched this interview. And if you enjoyed it, consider joining Club Weird, which will give you access to exclusive content. The lowest tier starts at $3 a month, and it helps the channel a lot. So there's more info on that in the video description below. And yeah, have a good night, everyone. And this is Lifeless Death.